Hey guys, today in this video we are going to be playing with some layering stencils and doing some hand stitching on our card. I'm going to be featuring the February 2025 Spellbinders Club Kits, but feel free to use whatever you have in your stash and craft along with me. Without any further ado, let's just jump on in and get crafting. Okay, so this layering stencil this month with Spellbinders has 5 stencils. It's a beautiful floral, kind of like a florally field. And I thought we would just give it a go. I've cut my piece here to an A2, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And these do have registration marks and they are numbered in the top left corner. So with an ultra sticky mat underneath you, I'm using the 9 by 13 Altenew ultra sticky mat. You can easily line up your stencil here and stick it down to your sticky mat to make easy placement and stenciling. Let me just move this up a tiny bit so that I'm kind of more center for you. And once this is down on the edges, and I love that Spellbinders makes these stencils a little bit bigger than your A2 size so that you can do that easily, we will go ahead and start. Now these are the greens, and I'm going to go ahead, I've got 3 colors of greens here. I'm going to go ahead and do this, the medium green. So that's Matcha Tea. These are Dye Fresh inks by Altenew. So I'm going to go ahead and get this. I do love that the sticky mat also holds your ink for you. So I've got two jobs being done at once, which is wonderful. It makes stenciling so much easier because I don't have to hold the stencil and I don't have to hold the paper and I don't have to hold the ink. So I'm just going to rub over this, which makes stenciling a breeze, and get our base layer of ink down here. I'm using the Altenew blending brushes. I do like that they have a flat stenciling surface, which gives for even coverage. And I find that it just gives a really nice effect to your stenciling. So that's my go-to. All right. You can go as light or as heavy as you want. We are going to have one little line layering on this, so you can think that you're going to have one extra dark color. You can also bring extra color in on this layer if you wanted to. Like we could add another layer of green right down here. We could just take another here and go ahead and just add more down here if we want to, just to show you that one ink can give you a darker color by just adding a little bit of extra layering. Because remember, a dye ink actually is dyeing your paper. It's not sitting on top, it's soaking in. So that's why it's called dye base, because it's soaking into your paper and actually changing the colors of the fibers. So I'll show you here by just doing the bottom so you can see that when we lift this up, you will see here that the bottom is actually darker. So down here, right here, right here, right here, right here is darker than, let's say, up here on the tips. So, and that's going to dry even more as we go along. Dries back quite a bit. And I don't know how much that actually shows in the camera, but it does. So the second layer is another green. And this one's a little tricky to line up. Go ahead and start with your corners, but then you have to actually line it up where it's not going over that other green. And it's got the little spaces there for you as a guide. So I'm just going to take my time and get it precisely right there. And get it down on the edges. So have you guys seen all of the club kits this month, and do you have a favorite? I would absolutely love you to comment the name of your favorite club kit this month. I would love to know which one it is. I have two favorites. I actually have two favorites. If you saw my reveal video, you'll probably know which ones they are. Actually, let me ink that off because I'm going lighter. But we're using one of them today in the stitching because I love the stitching. And my other favorite, I know you guys can guess, is the Better Press. So if you have not seen either of those, if you haven't seen my reveal video, then you want to check that out because those two are my absolute favorites this month. They're my top picks. And remember, you can make changes to your club kits too. If you're already a Spellbinders member, a club kit member, you can make changes. You don't have to stick with the same clubs every month, and you can actually stay on as a member if you know how to make the changes the same way. I mean, the right way. The best way to make changes to your club is to add the ones you want to be on next month to your cart and check out. Then go back in and cancel the ones you do not want. If you do it in that order, you buy them first and then you go in and cancel, then you will actually stay a club member. You'll never actually cancel completely out of the club. So you'll continue to keep all of your benefits and stay a club member without actually canceling anything. So you'll stay completely a club member. And that is the way I advise people to do it. That way you don't accidentally save your 10% discount. And I mean, like if you just want to carry, if you don't really care for this month's clubs and you just want to carry an embossing folder over for the month, something like that, or the small die, or just one club, that's the way I would suggest to do it. I know a lot of people last month upgraded to the full kit and caboodle, and they may not want it all this month. So I would put the kits in that you want and then go in and cancel that caboodle. Do what is best, for your pocketbook. Okay, there's our second layer. This is the lightest color, Aloe Vera. Here we go. Okay. I'm just going to have that one later. Then we're going to switch over, make sure my number's in the top left. We're going to switch over to this one. I'm going to line up those corners and see where we're at. It actually looks really good. Lined up pretty perfectly. Wow. Awesome. Just checking the points. Cool beans. So let's just layer that down. And we will go in with, how about the blue? This is Dewdrop. Love this color. Do I want to use the little one? I'll just use the little one. Yeah. I have both of them out, but this actually probably had the darker one on it first. These look a little dark to me. That's okay. Just paper. It's just paper. Let's switch to this one. Goes over these bigger ones better. Much faster on the big ones. There we go. Get a light coverage on all of those. So pretty. So now I'm going to go in with a little bit of the Aqualicious and just give it a little two-tone. You can do this with any of your stencils. And just add maybe a little on the insides. Whoops, a little bit. Maybe a little in the center there, a little at the bottom, a little in the center. Just be you. Just put it a little bit where you want it, just so there's a little dimension there. That's all you're doing, is adding a little dimension. All right. Then we will go to the pinks. Okay, look at our corners, line them up. And I'm going to look right here at this point too. That helps me, or that helps me when I find like a place. There's a point there too that you can kind of eye. And yeah, these registration marks are really spot on, let me tell you. Some registration marks are really far off the mark, but these are really good. Pink Pearl. Okay, make sure I don't have any of that too dark in there. So I used a darker one last time, I think. All right. Just get some lighter in here. Pretty coral color. It says Pink Pearl, but this is such a pretty coral. This is my kind of coral. Really soft and muted. Remember, you can build up the color and make it darker, but I love this. This is so pretty. I'm not worrying about if it's splotchy or not right now. It's not going to be when it dries. Plus, I'm going to add to it. These inks level out really, really well as they dry. Make sure you go both directions. It just helps make sure you don't have any gaps. Okay. We'll pull that one up, see how that looks. Look at there. Gosh. There we go. Alrighty. Always can fix your boo-boos. Then we'll go in with this one here. This is the last layer. Look at there. Now this one has the green layer. It also has the center of the flowers. Now I'm going to just do it all in the swamp green. I think it'll give a muted look to the flower centers. And rather than them being just really flashy, I want this to have a whole muted feel to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick with the swamp green and not go with any brighter colors or anything. It also makes it a little easier for you if you just stick with one color per stencil. But if you wanted to do this different colors, you could mask off or use really small brushes to be able to get in and do the centers of the flowers different colors. But this just makes for a quicker and easier center. And you can also, and I may end up, you can also add embellishments to the center of your flowers. That would be another look for you to do if you wanted to do the stenciling easier like this. There's just so many options. And this color, if it looks pretty dark when I get it done, because I'm filling it in quite well, because this is supposed to be the darkest color in the stems. So I'm filling it in really good. And if it's too dark, it'll dry back as well. So I think it will become pretty muted in the leaf or in the centers of the flowers. I think it will calm down a little bit as it dries. So that is our completed stenciled background. Now I'm going to need to go wash my stencils, but I want to show you the plan here, and then I will go wash those and come back with all the other parts. So I'm going to die cut this here. This is the part of the stitch of the month. It is a whole entire frame set. You get another scallop in here that you can stitch. You also get the center sections of both. So my thought process is we will cut out our favorite portion of this and we will frame it inside our stitched piece that will be cut out of this. I did have to cut this background piece a little larger than an A2 to be able to get the whole die underneath it. So we will measure it once it's cut out to see if it actually is the whole A2. I believe it is going to be, but just in case, to make sure it all cuts, I wanted to make sure that was going to be large enough. So that piece is actually 4.5 by 6, 4.5 by 6 inches to be able to cut the full background. So I'll be back in just a second and we will finish up our card. All right, friends, I am back and we are about to start our stitching. I have die cut everything out to save us some time. I also die cut a second stitched piece and glue it onto the back of our back panel that we're going to be stitching, so that I have a really tough piece of card here. I like to do that. It just speeds up your stitching time and it allows you to have a little more stability with your stitching. Now I added a piece of double stick adhesive back here, and I'm just going to pull my thread here. This is the top tip of mine, and let it stick down into that adhesive. This just secures it so I can start stitching right away. And all the way around, I am going to come up on the outside and down in the center. And the reason I like to do that, you can do it either way, but the reason I like to do that is the hole in the center is larger and you're going to be going in that hole the most. So going downward into the hole allows you to press the thread straight down, and it just allows you to keep all the thread going in the same direction. It just allows for everything to look nice and neat. So it sounds like my Miss Lola is trying to get my attention here. So I'm going to pause the video for 2 seconds and then come back. And I will come back with you when I get a little farther along in the stitching. All right, I have just attached a new piece and we're halfway there. So I thought I'd turn the camera back on. The dogs are all settled back in their beds and are resting quietly. So I thought continue on with the video. So again, I'm going from the outside to the inside of the circle. And here I'm about to switch over from circle to circle or scallop to scallop. So I'm going to go to the last stitch here on the corner. And then you could, if you wanted to attach these, you could stitch right here between them. But I did that on the first one. I didn't care for the way it looked. So I'm going to go ahead and just go under here, underneath, and come up on this one, and then just continue going down into the center hole again, and just go back around. I'm catching myself back here. I did my thread a little longer this time so I wouldn't have to change it as often, but now I'm going to probably catch a whole bunch of knots because I did that. But I just thought it would save a little time, but it might not. But I will morph it along a little bit as needed, depending on the time. So it's very simple, and the outcome is so worth the time. That's what I love about stitching, is it is so worth the time. And normally, you know, when you stitch, you wouldn't be sitting here talking your way through it. You know, you would be actually, you know, relaxing on your patio, or, you know, on your couch or in a comfortable chair, you know, maybe listening to some music or watching some television. You know, it's a good thing to do when you're watching a movie or just hanging out with your friends or family. I mean, it's just something, especially if you like to have something, you know, in your hands working, you know, doing something crafty, or just if you're any type of fidgeter and you want to be doing something, this is a perfect activity. And it's just, it can be very relaxing. And it's not like cross stitch where you have to really pay attention to a chart or anything like that. It's all done for you. And you can really make it your own. You can, change your colors if you want to, or you can, you could just stitch around here if you wanted to. You could add metallics if you wanted to. If you knew any other fancy embroidery stitches, you could add those, like some French knots or some rosebuds or anything like that. You could add those. I mean, there's a whole lot of things. You could add little seed beads. That would be pretty. So you want to keep the stitches taut rather than loose. And when you're stitching with the cotton instead of the metallic, it is a lot easier to do that. With the metallics, you have to hold it like really securely back here. And with the cotton threads, it's easier for it to lay tight. I still hold it just because I'm used to holding it behind, but it's not super necessary, but I still tend to hold it with my finger just to make sure it doesn't buckle or, come loose here. You don't want one of these loose when you're going to do the next one. You want it tight, just so it lays smoothly on your card when you're done. It also keeps it going in the right direction. And I don't know if you can tell in the picture on camera, but the paper itself is debossed where the lines actually go. So that makes it super easy, super easy to follow. And that's why you don't need a pattern. So you don't need any type of pattern. It's easy on the eyes, and it's quite enjoyable. This is our last corner, and then we will have a straight section and we will be done. So I will finish this up and we will build our card. All right, friends, here is the finished stitching. It'd be really pretty to add like a little crystal gem in the center of each of these. I think that would be really nice. And then our panel has a little dot detail along the edges, which is also a pretty accent. Now remember, these all come from the stitching of the Month Club from Spellbinders. You probably have a layering set in your stash that you could do something similar like this, even if it isn't a stitching set. But I think the way this turned out is just precious. But I've got a couple little other surprises for you as well that we're going to do here. So don't leave just yet. We're going to center this on here. And one thing that adding that second layer to the stitching piece, it really gives this a nice supportive feel to this card. It really kind of steps up the luxury of this card with having that extra kind of a feel good, texture. It makes it feel strong. And then I've got this sentiment that was glimmered out from last month's kit. And this is the Better Press of the month from last month. And this sentiment says, "Thanks, you are the best." And I thought the size and the color here looked perfect for this. So we're going to go ahead and use this. Whoops. Here's a 1mm foam square. So we'll use that. We'll go ahead and put a couple of those on here. I love the 1mm. I've been using a lot of them lately when I don't want too much extra bulk. And this card, like I said, already has some layers, and I'm still going to add a little bit to the layers after this. So this is the multi-layer card. So I didn't want too much bulk, but I did want a little extra for the sentiment. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that right there. Beautiful. Then for the finishing touch, I brought in this embossing folder. And this is actually the back of the embossing folder. I had this left over. This is actually a piece of shimmer paper from my Your Paper Insider subscription box this month. And I had die cut this out for my Wizard of Oz card this month. If you have not seen that, make sure you check that out. But the Wizard of Oz card this month. And my paper crackled on the other side and some of the white was showing. So I went ahead and kind of put it in my scrap box, and lo and behold, turn it over and it's still usable. And I thought the colors matched these ink colors perfectly. So we're going to go ahead and just attach this. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around. Make sure my card's going in the right direction. And this is exactly an A2 size. Remember earlier, I was wondering because I had to die cut or cut out the piece, but it is exactly an A2, but because it's scalloped, you see a bit of the portion behind it. So I'm going to give that a really good press. Oh, feels so wonderful. And then as a little surprise, look what I did to the inside. I used the other inside frame set and added a little area for them to write their note. So it coordinates to the outside of the card. Now, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial of stenciling and stitching. If you have, make sure you give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, because I want to craft with you again. So I will see you in the next video, my friends. Bye-bye for now.